afternoon. Kick off the last session of the day. You saw Clea hosting our last session, and now she's back and going to chat with you today about the value of digital communities. Clea actually has quite an extensive and interesting background, but she's currently teaching at NYU as an adjunct faculty member, teaching about storytelling and graduate writing. So she teaches writing. In between the professional sector here, got some jobs in the works. So definitely always down to talk about jobs, I'm sure. Clea can give you a lot of advice on that as well. And that's actually how she and I met. We're both members of the TLDC, and that's kind of how we ran into each other. And it's a great place to network. So definitely listen to all the advice she's got for you. She's got some amazing things planned for you today. Feel free to drop a hello in the chat, throw out an emoji. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Clea.
Thanks so much, Abby. So Abby will be managing the chat. Abby, feel free to interrupt me with any relevant questions. Also, we can save other questions till the end of the session. If there is anything burning in the chat that needs to be addressed, I really want to make this session interactive. And it's for you all. It's not just for me. It's a topic that I'm very passionate about, so I could talk about this forever. But I think the more that you all share your experiences, the better the session will be. So as Abby mentioned, I am a learning designer, currently adjuncting at NYU. Shout out to my current and past students. Love working with you. I'm currently looking for my next gig in learning and development. I live in Louisville, Colorado. I have mountains like those shown on this intro slide pretty close to me, and I love skiing, hiking, generally being in nature. I live with my husband, my dog, and 2 cats. And that's it about me. If you want to learn more, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I always love meeting new people there. I'll give you a brief rundown of the agenda, what I hope that we cover together today. And I'll include some image descriptions just to make sure that things are fully accessible to folks. So I'll be taking us through a tour of my journey and hope to learn about yours in digital communities, the why, the what, and the how. Why digital communities? Why should we care about them? Why is this even worth listening to? What communities are we part of? And then how to get started and keep going on your journey as a participant in these spaces. So I have some images to accompany these topics. The why is kind of like, I was talking to Abby about this before officially opening the session, but if you're shy or if you haven't yet explored many digital communities, I mean, you're kind of in one right now, so you've already got started, awesome. It can feel like, scaling Mount Everest or being out there in the wilderness. So I'll get us grounded there to prepare us for the journey. From there, which digital communities? You might need a compass or some tools to help you find your way. And then in terms of how to get started and keep going, I like to think of this as filling my hiking backpack with some tools and resources that are going to support me and sustain me on that journey. So I'll start with my why. I've always loved being online, and I describe myself as an online extrovert, in-person introvert, although that's kind of slowly changing over time. And I think I have digital communities to thank for a big part of that. I've always been comfortable being my fully authentic self in the safety of what started as semi-anonymous online spaces. Might be dating myself here, but I was an angsty teen blogger in LiveJournal and then Xanga. These days, you can find me in more modern Slack communities and a group called Disco that I participate in with a company called Starling. You can also find me on Reddit and other places like that. In my opinion and experience, online communities are great for introverts. And they give us a chance to meet people that we probably wouldn't ever in real life. So to me, that's always very exciting. Before I move to the next topic, and to give me a chance to catch my breath, because I know I'm a fast talker, I'm going to open the chat so I can read some of your messages. And I'd love you to share, what is your why? Why do you participate in digital communities? what made you join this session maybe. What's in it for you in terms of digital communities? And as you share your responses, I'll go ahead and comment on some of those. I love that someone appreciates the LiveJournal and Xanga references. Oh yeah. And I've got some fellow online extroverts here with me. You're in good company. Ooh, so Bobby has a great one, and holds true for me too. I thrive on collaborating, ideating. Yeah, digital communities are a great place to do that. You might hear me interchangeably use online communities, digital communities. I tend to think of them as the same thing. Nola is saying networking. Tiffany is saying an easy way to connect. My friend Rachel, hello, collaboration and networking. And I realize I'm still talking, so I'm going to turn it over to Abby to shout out some other one of these while I take a sip of water.
Sure, absolutely. We've got some really good ones. Let me scroll back here. You all are blowing up the chat. I have to scroll up here as people are adding comments. Let's see. Nola loves the networking aspect. Tiffany, easy way to connect with people. Rachel says collaboration and networking. Michelle, I'm shy to meet new people, so it's nice to do it online. Nicole, working from home has been, I love working maybe from home. I love helping people and learning new things, but hate driving. That's true. It's much easier just to open your computer rather than drive an hour to talk to someone. Lots of
commute
for networking, nerding out with like-minded people. That's always a good one. Let's see. Having conversations. Sometimes the older I get, the more difficult it is to maintain in-person relationships, especially with working remote. So online kind of helps plug that gap. Being able to connect with other L&D folks because there's no local community. Let's see. Collaborating, finding people with shared interests, just flexibility and convenience. I think that's a big one here. We all are short on time, or we all have to multitask. Maybe we're waiting for our kids at soccer practice, and that's the only time that we can get into chat with people. So it's nice that we don't actually have to fully commit all of ourselves to that piece. So those were some of the responses. Keep them coming if you want, but I'm going to turn it back over to Clea and mute myself so she can keep going with her presentation.
Yeah, thank you. And I was trying my best to heart every single response, and then I realized that I would get very distracted. So just know that I heart it mentally, and I can't wait to peek at those responses later. I also love what someone said about, staying in touch with people. That's been a big part of my life. I was born in Germany. I've lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Oxford, England, New York City, and Astoria, New York, and now Colorado. Hopefully we'll stay put here now that I have a house. But that has been a big part of helping me stay connected to my former colleagues and friends and family all over the place. So absolutely. And thank you for sharing, everyone. Next topic I'll take us through is what digital communities. So I'm going to talk about moving past teenage angsty Clea, blogging online, and focus on specifically what digital communities have really helped me in learning and development and my general own professional development journey. I think I started on LinkedIn, although I can't really remember. I was also very active on Twitter back in the good times. I'm pretty sure I met Rachel, my friend who's here there, live tweeting at an online learning consortium conference. Now, several of those folks that I've met in those spaces and on Twitter, we host a podcast together. So you never know where these digital communities can take you, and that's exciting to me. I am still on Reddit. That was part of my early exploration journey. And I want to give a caution that the instructional design subreddit specifically can be a little spicy. You have to have thick skin. And I think sometimes there's a big difference in terms of digital communities that are more anonymous, where you can have an avatar and a silly screen name. Not going to tell you mine on there, versus like LinkedIn, where it is your name. People see your employment history. So sometimes things just are kind of different, but I love the variety and I love engaging in both of those spaces. From there, I found out about a group called Pedagogy. I think I learned about it through Twitter, actually. That is a space in Slack, mostly for folks in higher education, but also a few in corporate. I happened to find my first job in instructional design there through one of the job postings channels. Learned about an instructional designer role at a tech company, and I worked there for a good year and a half. So that was really powerful in terms of my journey. I also, of course, have to give a shout out and several exclamation marks to TLDC. Thanks for having me present this session. You know, this community is the first one that I paid for. And I'm someone who loves thrift stores, is very reluctant to spend any of her own money, especially right now while I'm job searching. But, you know, the 75 bucks a year to join this amazing space, absolutely, like no hesitation. I'm glad I joined, and it has paid for itself tenfold and will continue to do so. I mean, I met Abby there, and that is enough to cover the cost of membership. I'm also a member of a group called Starling. It's a startup for individual contributors and folks in leadership who just want to build better work culture. So I have to give them a little plug as well. And finally, forgot this one, they're out of order, customereducation.org. That's an area that I discovered kind of more recently within the last, I don't know, half year or so. And that helped me broaden my viewpoint of learning and development. I'd always kind of worked on the internal education and training side, but I realized that my very first job out of college was actually in customer education. I was educating heating and cooling customers about websites and what it means to advertise and, you know, reach new customers. So I also will say that I found my local bestie, Monica, through that community. I introduced myself in their Introduce Yourself channel, mentioned I'm in Boulder County, and 2 minutes later, we're texting each other our home addresses. So shout out to Monica. So glad I met you, and it wouldn't have been possible aside from the customereducation.org Slack group. I know there will be more communities to come because communities, especially digital ones, considering how vast the world is and how vast technology is, they're always evolving. And so I'm excited to see what else comes next. So another pause for me here, and I'd love Abby to share out some responses in the chat. Which communities are you in? Maybe you are part of TLDC, hopefully. If not, I hope that you'll be encouraged to join or explore those options. And, you know, if you can't swing the financials, I totally get it. Please continue to participate in the free events just like this one. I'm glad that we're able to offer those to the community. That means a lot to me. But I'd love to see if there's any communities that have been, you know, really impactful for your own professional development or related to learning and development that I haven't mentioned, so we can expand the navigation points that we might want to consider as we climb that summit.
Well, let's see here. We've got a lot, and I'm going to ask, I have to know what the GLDC is because I don't know. So if someone can throw in the acronym here, we're swimming in letter soup here. ATD, I've definitely heard of that one.
Oh, yeah, ATD.
Got a lot of votes for the TLDC because, well, it's just awesome. So definitely one to consider. Let's see here. A couple people. Oh, global learning and development community. Thank you, Jared.
Very cool.
I get stuck on the acronyms. I'm not sure. I got it now. Thank you. So got a lot of votes for that and the ATD. Oh, here's Cindy's got the link here. If you have a good one, make sure you throw it in the feed there so it doesn't get lost. I know we've also had a couple, Jared mentioned a few earlier this week, Tim Slade's community. I know Holly Owens also runs a community, I think called the Professional.
I love Holly.
Yeah, she's also awesome. She has an Ed Up podcast. So if you're looking into kind of higher ed and that learning space, she's a great one to check out. Let's see. I probably went down the rabbit hole because, you know, being a former teacher, I love free. The price is right. So I went in exploration of as many free resources as I could find. If you haven't joined Sharon's group, I know she had a link yesterday, and I can put it again in the, oh, yep, you got it, Jared. Yep, LinkedIn group. we can definitely get that posting up. I know, Jan, we had a nice discussion about how great Sharon's sessions are. If you haven't gone to one, you definitely should. And if you missed yesterday's session, we will definitely get the replay. It was awesome. She had a lot of amazing insights as well. So if you have any ideas for networking digital spaces, oh, Bobby for the win. Let's see here. That's awesome.
Always bet on Bobby.
Yeah. Bobby said to anyone who has financial constraints, she's going to sponsor TLDC for 2 people. You can DM her. Oh, thank you, Bobby.
Amazing.
Awesome. And
That's
Tim
so
Slade's e-learning group, absolutely.
I love Tim.
Oh, ID Lance. I've never heard of that one. You learn about freelancing and shared resources and gig postings. Also, if you haven't joined TLDC, you should, because there's a jobs channel. I know Bobby is always throwing in job postings in that Slack channel. Also a good place to network and find other people that may have job openings, or, you know, if you're one that doesn't want to put out a random post about networking, great place to dip your toes in the water. Start where you know, and that's it. That's a good place to start. I know as an introvert, it's really hard to put yourself out there and talk to random strangers, but I promise it's worth it. Oh, yeah. Oh dear. Okay. What is ON? Can you break down that acronym ONLIP? Or sorry.
Otherwise, I'll guess.
ONILP, sorry. Jan's got another one. Oh, these are great.
Yeah, I'm so excited to check out some of these. Thanks for sharing, everyone.
Definitely.
You know, another one that I want to give a plug to is when I was an LMS administrator in higher education, the vendors kind of online communities like Canvas's online community, D2L Brightspace, they were so helpful. You know, you're like, how do I do this thing that seems really intuitive but has 25 buttons? Someone's got you covered in the community, like wonderful people there.
Oh, I like that, Jan. If it's free, it's for me. Yes, that's right. I know it's very hard to stretch your dollars when you're teaching. Free is all about where you need to start and kind of go from there. Oh, online network of independent learning professionals with Patty Bryant. Got it.
Very cool.
Okay. Perfect. You got a ton of suggestions here.
Yeah, amazing. So I hope that you're encouraged to check out some of these. Again, dabble around, explore. It's very little pressure. I think that's what I love the most about online communities. You know, sometimes I used to show up back in the day to in-person networking events, and then I realized like, ooh, this is not for me, and it feels so awkward to leave. But online, you can just close that window, and there you go. All right, so I'm going to move us forward in the interest of time and talk about the third topic here. And I think I have a surprise bonus topic that I snuck in, kind of a way to sum it all up and make sure that I deliver on what I promised in the session description. So that is coming up after this. Here, we'll take a few minutes to talk about, you know, gathering the tools and resources to take us on this journey. My backpack would look very much like this one that you see on the screen. If you're able to see the image, it is overstuffed. There's a blanket below it. So I like to be comfy and cozy and have what I need in online communities. And I encourage you to find out what that is for you, like what will help you get started and keep going. Might be a little bit different for everyone, and that is totally okay. That's what makes it great. In terms of how I got started, I tend to go from lurking to learning, so getting a little bit more invested, and then lingering. And I don't always make it to the third. Some communities I only dip into for a very short time, learn a little bit, and then decide that they aren't for me, or I've kind of gotten as much as I could out of it and I move on. Right? We all lead very busy lives. We have to prioritize. We do have to make sure that we have time for offline engagement and rest and playing with our puppies and all of those good things. If I don't set boundaries for myself, I would be in these digital communities forever, and my loved ones would begin to worry about me. So, you know, take the approach that works best for you. This is what has helped me. Beyond those intro steps, when I'm ready to do more, I start by commenting. And maybe that is just adding a reaction to something that someone posts in a Slack group or on LinkedIn that really resonates with me. Maybe I decide that I want to chime in with some words of my own to further the conversation. Whatever feels right to you is the best strategy, honestly. From there, I see if I can connect with individuals based on shared interests, or maybe even connect with a group like the folks that I now host a podcast with. We wouldn't have met if not for that online conference and the Twitter community, which has changed since then, but I'm so glad that we're still in touch. Most of us have still never met in person, so that just speaks to the value of these digital spaces. From there, I've begun to do a little bit more just because these digital communities, they've helped me so much. And so I want to give back however I can. I was waffling between the different C words that I want to use here. And sometimes I coordinate, sometimes I contribute more actively. Whatever word resonates with you, use that one. For instance, I did a little bit of help in planning this conference. Talk about that in a minute. Actually, no, I do have a slide for that. Glad I have my speaker note cheat sheets. Abby and I worked together on coordinating the survey to help plan all, 17 chock-full sessions of this Transitioning to Learning and Development conference. That was a wonderful opportunity. I'm so glad Abby and I met. We've been in touch since then. And it was a great chance just to do something for TLDC that was, low time commitment for me, but I was happy to contribute in this way and to see what the community wanted out of this conference. And thanks for Luis's support on that too, and all the other volunteers in the back channel for this event. As shown by this super flattering screenshot of a video of myself in the top right of the screen, I created a few short videos for professional development courses in Starling, that leadership online community that I'm a part of. I also post weekly discussion prompts there on Thursdays. Thursdays is also my day on posting in Pedagogy. My posts there tend to be very silly, like if you had a pet crab, what would you name it? Just something to get people engaged. It doesn't always have to be about serious professional development. If you can see my virtual background, I'm all about fun and partying in an introverted way. So, make space for that too. Bring your whole self to the digital community if you can. What else here? Oh, in the bottom right, I will say I was a longtime lurker in the customer education Slack group that I mentioned, where I met my friend Monica. But I noticed that they were coordinating a book club discussion around a book that I really wanted to read. It was about online teaching and course design. So I decided to step up and volunteer to host a discussion around the second half of the book. I did a little bit of prep work in terms of throwing together a Google Doc with some discussion questions that folks could contribute to in advance of our live session in Zoom or even afterwards. And I will say that I didn't read the book. I kind of skimmed because, time and ADHD and life, but it was still so wonderful. And I was so touched by the folks who reached out to me afterwards and said, hey, thank you for doing that. The way you facilitated made this inclusive. I'd love to see more of that. And that has inspired me to do more. So don't be afraid to think about ways that you can contribute in big ways or small. Even if you mess things up or fail, I think you will find that the community wants to support you and they're going to let it go. So again, you probably know the drill by now. My question for you is, how do you like to contribute? What helps you participate in the digital communities that you care about? I'd love to get some ideas and strategies from you, and I'm sure that the fellow audience members would as well. And I'll have Abby read some of those out loud. Oh, Jen is saying that looks like I go prepared. Yeah, I did that the night before, like putting together the Google Doc. So I also put together these slides the 30 minutes before. Yeah, I guess that's prepared, but last minute prepared. A deadline helps me.
And if you haven't started or you haven't started yet, how will you start? Like, what's a goal you're just going to set for yourself to get started if you haven't?
Yeah, that's a great way to expand that prompt, make it more inclusive.
Put your toe in the water. Let's see.
How can we encourage you to
when there is consistent engagement, not just shouting into the void. Yeah, that's tough when it feels like you're talking and nobody's listening. Oh, Jessie likes to be everyone's hype person. I feel like that's
I love that. We all need a hype person.
Tiffany likes to ask questions. Nicole sets up Zoom meetings. Oh, Jasmine likes what you said about lurking. You're not the only one, Jasmine. I lurk too. I kind of want to look before I start and dive in. There's nothing wrong with lurking. You can get a lot of good ideas.
Absolutely.
Carrie follows people. Just looking for good content that's helpful. Let's see here. Rachel misses the loop.
Yeah, I don't know if
you're talking about a few lurkers in here.
Search loop there, Rachel. I think that was like a thing that paired instructional technologists and designers so they could learn from folks in similar situations. But let me know if I got that wrong.
Hashtag lurkers unite. Yes, sign me up for that. Definitely can be a part of that community. And if you're a lurker, like I think a lot of us started or maybe still do it sometimes, because when a lot of people chime in, it's kind of intimidating when you see 40 comments on a post. But it's a good way to just start. Just start with a like, and then you can kind of progress to a comment. And then if you feel real brave, you can make your own post. But it's all about your comfort level. And sometimes when I have too many people reaching out to me, it's like, whoa, what did I do here? This is more than I'm used to. But it's kind of fun because it's enjoyable to be able to help people and connect with so many folks kind of across the globe, really. All these digital communities, they don't care about where you're located. Now you can bridge the gap between spaces that we couldn't before.
Yeah, I love that. And I was just thinking about something else in terms of lurking, like let's say you post something and you get no reactions. That used to frighten me. Like, have I pissed people off? Have I done something wrong? You never know what lurkers are out there who might be thinking, this is just what I needed to hear, or that was wonderful. It really resonates with me, right? They're lurkers. They might be thinking it and you just don't know it. So keep that in mind. They are out there, I promise you.
Does anyone else have a way there? Or maybe you've set yourself a goal like, okay, I want to step it up from lurking. Maybe I'll just find somebody's post to comment on this week. Or maybe make a post. I find a good way to start. And I think the first conference that I joined was the one on accessibility. And I found that it was really nice to just comment about the event you're going to. So if you're looking to make connections, put the event up on your page. Like, look what I attended. I met some really amazing people. Tag those people because it's going to help all of you gain visibility as you kind of grow your LinkedIn presence, which does not come overnight.
It doesn't. Absolutely not. I love what someone shared in the chat too about asking questions. That's another great strategy for introverts. Like, I don't want to talk about myself, but what question can you ask about, what was your favorite session of this event? Or, hey, fellow people seeking jobs, what's one way you like to unwind after a stressful day?
Question asking is a great way to kind of engage people in your content. I think Mark had a strategy too, reaching out, commenting, replying, leading with humor. Anyone that knows Mark, he loves a good joke. So stay tuned. If you haven't started following him, he will definitely make you laugh.
I love jokes too. My specialty is
a safety blanket. It helps. It works. And if I get left on red or ghosted, well, it happens. So let's see here. We got a couple more people. Let's see here. Oh, thanks, June. It starts with a like or an emoji. Yeah, you got to put your toe in the water, June. It's really, as an introvert, I can tell you the first post I made was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. So once you get one post out there, the rest come a little easier, but it's always terrifying to wonder, are people going to read this? Are they going to like it? Does anyone even care what I have to say? But again, taking Clea's advice, well, there's probably a lot of lurkers out there that are reading it and liking what you post. They don't want to comment on it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So
and also don't worry too much about getting it perfect. Like, I still have days where I post something and then maybe an hour or maybe 2 days later, I'm like, ooh, I really shouldn't have said that. Or why did I do that? And lately I just let it go, move on to the next thing. Probably no one has noticed, and we're all human.
It's true. It's true. And Mark's right. We used to be coworkers, for those of you that didn't catch his session on LinkedIn. Yeah, we definitely did. So I know all about Mark's humor, but he is quite inspirational. If you weren't able to attend that session, definitely catch the replay when the recordings come out. That's a good point too. Even if they don't comment or like, they show up authentically. You're right. People will find you. Yeah. So
right.
Oh, Bobby, good point. For introverts, there are people who offer co-hosting sessions where you're working online together. Yep. But you're in your own little bubble. So it's a good way to just be together in a space. I know I've seen a couple people host those sessions.
I want to give Bella Gaetan a big shout out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know about Bella. I was going to say, that's the first one that came to mind because she offers those too.
Yeah, they're amazing. All right. So last kind of bonus surprise topic, AKA, what did I promise to talk about in the session description? So I've blabbed about, the wonders of digital communities for quite a while now. I talked about where I started, where I am now, strategies for engagement. But how does this relate to things like professional development, networking, skill building, and knowledge sharing? Probably some of these questions that I just posed have already been answered, but I just want to make sure that I do it justice and share some of my top tips. So in terms of how digital communities relate to professional development, again, I learned about a lot of instructional design and learning and development opportunities through these digital spaces. Job posting channels in Pedagogy, TLDC, customer education Slack groups. I think more often than not, I've gotten interviews from those rather than the random ones that I find through LinkedIn. And it's often because, I can make connections at those places who might say, oh, look out for this person who wears a silly party hat and is kind of bonkers, but she might be a good fit for this place, right? It's part of me being my authentic self and trying to find a next employer who's really suited to who I am and what I can bring to their organization. In terms of how it relates to networking, again, another shout out to Monica, my bestie in customer education, and the friends that I met through Twitter and OLC conferences that I now podcast with. Abby, who's a regular contact that I reach out to in TLDC. We often Slack each other. So don't be shy about reaching out to those people that you meet and finding ways to deepen that relationship over time, stay connected, see how you can help each other. Skill building, I will say that digital communities really helped me learn how to use a lot of new technologies. I didn't know a thing about Airtable before a few TLDC conferences. I learned a lot of Slack tips through the communities that I joined there. And I will also say that I learned we often don't need to create perfect things. Like my videos in Starling, I was encouraged just to be myself, get on webcam, try to make sure there's nothing too disastrous in my background and use a microphone for solid audio. But I find that audiences often want just a more authentic, real presence than some highly produced Hollywood level video. Like you want to talk to real people. So don't be afraid of putting that type of work out there. That's something valuable that I learned. I don't have to be a perfectionist in terms of content creation. And in terms of knowledge sharing, what I want to emphasize here is that knowledge sharing doesn't always happen at work. In my first instructional design role, I was the only one, the only instructional designer in my department. There were a few other IDs in a different space. They had a different focus. And so I had a lot of questions about, hey, how do folks do this in a customer service division? How do you manage priorities across designing learning experiences for like 5 different business lines and products that are totally different? So look beyond your organization, and I bet you will find some people in some digital communities who have very similar experiences and who are happy to share and learn from you. I love learning openly from others in different companies or totally different careers. That has helped me get ideas about other career opportunities I might want to pursue. find some of those other niches that you might not even know were possible, all of that good stuff. And in terms of knowledge sharing, my own best advice is just be generous, openly share, don't expect anything in return. You will get it back. But I never like to be like, ooh, if I tell you this, can you tell me this? I like to just be open and expect nothing back. That's my approach. And it has worked well for me. Those are just a few ways that I've made my way through these different topics. So again, I'd love to hear from you. How have digital communities helped you in your own professional development journey and your own networking goals, maybe in skill building and knowledge sharing? Let's hear it in the chat.
That's a very thought-provoking question. Well, people consider that. I'm always reminded of the quote, you know, share your story, because you never know when it will be someone else's survival guide. Like, exactly. People need to know this is how I got through this situation and what I'm doing now. You never know who's going to kind of latch onto that and say, oh, you're now my inspiration because you went through this and now I know I can do it. So you can empower others by sharing your story, even if you don't think you have one worth sharing. I promise you do. We all have a story, and you definitely need to own every part of your journey. You definitely do, because it's shaped who you are, and other people need to know about it. So empower yourself. And this is kind of, those digital communities are helping empower each other. And I think that's really powerful as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We got lots of responses, Clea. We got a few popping in here. Did you want to read them out, or you want me to read them out?
Ooh, we can take turns if you want.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'll take the first one. Nicole says, I'm sitting in my college's Center for Teaching and Learning. There's always instructional designers here for me to talk with. That is amazing. I often wish I had that. Like, I remember often ChatGPT would be my colleague. Like, hey, fellow instructional designer, how would you do this? And then I finally started to reach out to real people. But if you do have actual colleagues around you, yes, don't forget about them.
And if you haven't caught Clea's session, it was in the last AI workshop that happened.
Oh, yeah.
Clea talked about how to use ChatGPT as your coworker.
Tiffany, titled Chatty G and Me, 3 ways to use ChatGPT.
It was a great presentation.
I totally winged that one.
I know Tiffany and I had a conversation in Tim Slade's community. I'm so glad you found your way here to this event, and a lot of resources on Facebook too.
Yeah. Yeah, Julie Dirksen, I think, has an amazing Facebook group. And I think also Connie Malamed, the e-learning coach. Let me share one. I'm just going to pick out random because I'm lost in the scrolling. For those who aren't averse to one-on-one networking membership, one of the resources shared is adplist.org. Free 99. We love that. And has people in the industry who want to talk to you versus, you know, it can feel scary to reach out to someone on LinkedIn and be like, are they going to respond back to me? Are they annoyed? Do they hate me? Sometimes I still do that when kind of cold reaching out to people. So absolutely love that recommendation.
Definitely. I like Jesse's suggestion. Networking is so validating when my imposter syndrome wants to poke its head up. Comparing the triumphs and struggles with others kind of removes those silos and mixes up the metaphors. That's a great analogy.
I especially love sharing the struggles. We often don't get enough of that, and it's real. You know, it's real life. I love what Bobby is sharing too about using LinkedIn as a trend indicator to try to position her work, skills, company to stay ahead of the curve. Absolutely. And she also adds, my network helps me understand the what, the why, and potentially the how. Love it.
I know Elizabeth asked about where, I know I was the one that threw out ADP list as finding a mentor. That's one I picked up from some career coaches I used to work with. I don't know, Mark, I know you're out there somewhere. If you ever worked with a student that got a mentor. Oh, good. Perfect. I just know it's a great resource. We used to tell our students to kind of go and it takes the guesswork out of wondering who I can ask for a mentor. So thank you, Mark. Anyone that wants to know about how to use ADP lists, definitely connect with Mark. Definitely get you hooked up with those resources and kind of how to navigate there. There's a lot of fabulous people out there that are willing to donate their time.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Be mentors. another digital platform, if you will, digital community. I don't think anyone had any more questions. But if you do, we got time. So feel free to pop them in.
Yeah, this is basically the end. Ta-da!
Or maybe you have a thought, another inspirational quote or thought as we kind of wrap. So other thoughts you'd like to share. Definitely open the floor for questions and or comments.
Yeah. And I do want to say, if anyone would like to join me after this to continue the conversation, I'm totally happy to host a table. You can find that in the lounge area after we end this session. If it is the end of your day and you're like totally screen fatigued, please, go outside or take a break, whatever. I will not hold it personally, but I'll make sure that I hang out there for a good 30 minutes or so in case anyone would like to chat.
Clea, will you be back maybe later this week and pop into a table perhaps?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Okay.
Yep. I know you've got a lot of things going, and that's okay. We're all kind of juggling our schedules, but it's nice to pop in and see people. Cindy is also going to be hosting a table. Cindy's been super active with a ton of resources in our chat. So yes, definitely look for her tables. We're going to open that up right after this session. So if you want to sit down and pick her brain, it's a great one. She's got so many resources. Definitely check that out. Love Mark's quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It's pretty true. If you've already convinced yourself you can't, well, of course you can't. So just think about it. How do you know?
That's one of my goals to stop doing that this year, because I realize that I've held myself back from a lot of opportunities. Yep. And now I kind of try to be like a rebel against that voice. Like, you can't present at this session, Clea. Like, watch me.
Yeah, exactly. That quote, I don't remember who said it first, and the bird's looking at its mother saying, "But what if I fall?" And the mother bird says, "Oh, my darling, but what if you fly?" Like, how do you know until you try?
Oh, I love that.
Just try. You actually, I'm sure, will surprise yourself. And when you think you can't, reach out to your network, right? They're going to help pick you up and inspire you. And for us lurkers, we find lots of inspiration in other people's posts, even if we don't talk about what we found. I know there's been a lot that have inspired me, like, oh, all right, look at you did that hard thing. Now I'm going to go do something equally hard and push myself. If you're comfortable, that's a bad thing. You need to push yourself until you're uncomfortable so that you can grow. Oh, thanks, Jan. Yeah.
And it may not always work out. Like looking at these mountains in the background of my slide, I thought I could get down a steep blue kind of icy mountain at my local ski resort back in December, but I fell and cracked my helmet and don't remember falling, but I'm still here and I'm still alive. So, it might not always work out. Take educated risks. I'm going to play it more safely these days.
It's true. And I'm reminded of what we would tell students. I know we've been ingrained not to fail. And how do we learn? We learn by making mistakes. Yeah. We need to normalize making mistakes and failing. It's not a failure. And if you want any TED Talks, I used to send them to my students all the time. Like we need to normalize that and understand it's part of our learning process. So embrace your learning process. You might trip, you might take a face plant. Hopefully you just crack your helmet and then you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off. And like I think I told Mark,
I got back out there.
Exactly. I know I had a conversation with Mark about this. I was like, when I fall down, you all are the ones putting Band-Aids on my knees and putting me back on my bike. Like, yes, you can. And then we keep going. So,
yeah. You mentioned TED Talks. So I want to share one of my favorite TED Talks is Embrace the Shake. I don't know if anyone has ever watched or listened to that one. Feel free to share in the chat. But it's about, I believe, an artist who was trying so hard to do very specific art. And he developed kind of this tremor or shake in his hand, couldn't do that type of art, was able to think outside of the box and do amazing work with super squiggly, shaky stuff, but in a large format. So look that up, really inspiring. I'll probably watch it later today.
I feel like we could have a whole thread with TED Talks. I mean, but think about peanut butter. We wouldn't have peanut butter if it weren't for an accident, a thing that we weren't trying to invent at all, right? So, all these amazing things that have been invented because we didn't mean to, it just sort of happened. I think Post-its have a similar story. Like, that's not what we were going for, but look at this cool thing that came out of a technical failure. So.
Oh, and shout out to my friend Carrie, who's here. She encouraged me to keep being a rebel. And thank you very much, Carrie, for that advice and for your support.
Definitely. I think doesn't look like anybody has anything else they kind of want to add. So I definitely want to leave Clea with a round of applause for her wonderful presentation and inspiring all of us today. And if you're interested in hanging out with Clea after the session, once we close out, definitely find her at a table. And Whiteout has a similar story. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abby, and thanks, Luis, and thanks to all my fellow presenters and participants at this event. It has been so uplifting and wonderful. Again, TLDC, one of my favorite digital communities. So this session really means a lot to me. And I'm so grateful for all you contributed to make it even stronger, share more strategies, etc.
Definitely. I feel like we're much stronger as a community. All of our heads came together. We're definitely an inspiring and resourceful bunch. So
absolutely.
Stay tuned. This is our last live session for today, but tomorrow we will have some more starting at a little bit later tomorrow at 10 a.m. Where we're going to have some amazing, we're talking about pivot and progress. But today you can catch Cindy and Clea at tables. And if you can stick around, we'd love to have you. And otherwise, we'll catch you on the flip side tomorrow.
Yeah. Have a great day, morning, evening.
Have a good afternoon and evening, wherever you are in the world. And we'll catch you next time.
Take care. Thanks, everyone.